All right, the race for the White House officially gets underway in Iowa today as voters gather later this evening to start their caucusing and to choose who they believe is the best person to beat President Joe Biden in the general election, with expectations that Donald Trump will eventually secure the big win. He's got a big 28-point lead right now. So joining us live from Iowa from the Historical Museum is NBC News senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson, where Hallie, the Republican candidates, hours away now from their first test that will set the stage for the primaries, of course, that come next. What can you tell us, and how is the weather going to affect the caucusing tonight?
So let me say, hi, Chris. It's so good to see you. Let me start with the second piece of it, and I'm listening to your weather report there. It is going to be brutally cold. It is always cold in January in Iowa. I've been here before for these kinds of things. It's winter. People here get it. This is extreme. This is unusual. It is extraordinary. So that is actually a big question mark. And when you're out listening to these candidates talk about the weather, some of them believe, for example, Ron DeSantis has suggested that maybe a lower turnout could be something that throws a curveball into this race. You've got former President Donald Trump and his supporters who were braving sub-zero wind chills yesterday, standing in line for a while, trying to get into his rally, saying, hey, we think that Donald Trump supporters will show up even more for the caucus because they are so loyal. Thing is, we just don't know yet. We're not going to know till it happens. I confess, I am inside. This is a caucus location, though, just in the shadow here of the Iowa State Capitol. So later on tonight, this place is going to be filled with people figuring out who is going to take the first Republican contest, essentially. After so long talking about 2024, it is finally here. The first time we're going to see, essentially, delegates assigned based on how this process goes. And let me give you a sense of the landscape here. You mentioned it. Donald Trump, according to our latest Des Moines Register, Mediacom, NBC News poll, has a dominant lead, 28 points. Listen, the margin here, if he wins by 13, 14, 15, he will make history. There has never been a non-incumbent that has won by that much. So that's one of the questions we're looking at, as well as if Donald Trump does do well, does he get over that 50% threshold, right? Does he get 50% plus one of the caucus goers here? That would be symbolic, right? Because it would show his grip on the Republican Party and would show and signal down the road if there is room for an alternative in the GOP primary not named Donald Trump. Second thing we're watching for is this race for second place, right? Which really is heating up, even though the temperatures are not here in Iowa. You've got Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, with Nikki Haley now taking the lead in our new poll by a bit over Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. I was out at an event with the former UN ambassador just yesterday, a campaign event. She is really trying to frame her closing argument as not just generational change, but also she believes and she tells people she is best positioned to win a general election. I also chatted with your governor there, with Ron DeSantis, who said to me, listen, she can't get conservative core Republicans behind her in a primary process, which is why he believes that he's best positioned to move forward in this process. So big day. It's going to be a big night. You got a lot of people who are super interested, but that, of course, is the third wild card, which is back to what we started with. How's the weather going to affect things? I think you have a lot of people who are just sort of wondering, what will we see? How will turnout look? We'll find out tonight, Chris.
And which candidate could benefit by the turnout? Hallie, I want to talk a little bit more about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Of course, we are here in Florida. Obviously, it is that race for second place if the numbers hold true. How important is it for him to overtake Nikki Haley, finish second, in order to keep his campaign going and keep his donors happy?
Such a good point. And you know this, Chris, that just a month ago, right, as recently as last month, he was predicting that he would win the state of Iowa, right? I mean, that was at least the level of public confidence that he put out there. Here's the thing. It's always an expectation management situation when you get into Iowa, because so much of this is about momentum moving forward into New Hampshire and then South Carolina. So when you talk to the governor about this, and we talk to his team, I think there is a sense that they say and they insist that they think they will do well. Obviously, he would prefer to come in second over third. I think it's interesting what his strategy is after Iowa, because while all the attention is on this state today, you've got Governor DeSantis heading first to South Carolina tomorrow morning. Then he'll go back to New Hampshire. But it is in some ways a symbol of the strategy that his team has. They're trying to signal, and he says this himself, that he's going to be in this for the long haul, essentially, that he's playing the long game, looking ahead to Nevada, looking ahead to some of those Super Tuesday states. As you mentioned, though, it costs money to run a campaign, right? Like it costs money to be able to put this on. And while he has allies and super PACs, et cetera, that is also going to be a question mark as this race continues to evolve, especially if Donald Trump continues to, as we've seen in the polling, dominate when it comes to actual caucus goers and actual voters casting their ballots.
Hallie, a lot to watch for tonight. And of course, we'll get our first indication tonight when those numbers start rolling in. Stay warm up there.